So I've imported all of the images from my card onto my computer and imported them into Lightroom. Now I'm going to go through and rate them. We've got one of the last images here. These are the images that I was more happy with. This one was the first pose that I did. All of the photos today, I'm just going to be putting over the top my corrections preset, which warms up the photo and it also gives it a lot of detail. Now I can tell for this specific photo that it's too warm in general. And I'm going to go over to the right hand side where the editing panel is. You can either cool it down so it's really blue, or you can warm it up so it's really orange. I'm gonna set it probably to about there. I'm then gonna click on all of the other images and I'm just gonna develop that and tap paste settings from previous. That'll just apply my preset to all of the other images as well. So the reason I like having an overlaid preset on my photos is because a lot of the time the shadows are really dark. So here you can see the before, whereas as soon as I put this corrections preset on, which is available to buy for £5 on my website at amyjrobinson.com/shop, you can see a lot more detail in my hair and within the dress itself as well. That is one of our finished photos, final photos even. And this one was where we started, so there is quite a bit of a difference. Also, I haven't done video tutorials on how to edit photos before, so I'm sorry if I'm not very clear. I thought I would do this one as a test. In terms of posing, I'm going to go through the techniques one last time so we can see how we got from this pose to our final pose, which is this one. I realised straight away that I didn't really want my legs in it. Not just because I have hairy legs, but just because I wanted a lot more of the dress to be in the photo. I covered my legs like this. I then realised that I had a lot of white space on the left hand side of the actual photo composition, and I thought, well, I need to fill that frame a lot more because that's almost 1/3 if we think about rule of thirds in a grid pattern. I almost want myself to be like at least halfway into that left third of the image, like that. But then I thought it looked really rigid across here. It wasn't a very flattering angle. The main things that I didn't like here was in this side, I didn't like how I had no gap here, because if I have a gap, it gives me the illusion of having more of a shape, which you can see here. And then the same for the other side. Arm also sort of looks weird because my hair's covering it and then I've just got a forearm coming out randomly. I wanted to separate that arm further. So that's how I then got brought to this photo, which I like a lot more. I then brought this leg up and the elbow down to meet it. I really like this one, but it's very slightly out of focus. I actually really love my eyes in this one. I think it looks like I'm really contemplating this key, which I do a lot because, like I said, I think it's got a lot of potential for different stories and different editorials. The only thing I don't like about this photo is that I've forgotten to lift my elbow from my waist, so it doesn't give me as much shape as, for example, this one does. And I like that one a lot. I think the hand, my right hand, looks a lot more natural than it does on this one. It's a very minor tilt with the wrist, but it just looks better straight away. So these are the final 2 images that I'm going to edit. And the first thing I'm gonna do really is I'm gonna go crop and rotate, and I'm gonna align with this back window panel here. One thing to bear in mind with editing in Lightroom, I don't edit my photos specifically for Instagram, but if you do, I would recommend going crop 4:3 and then choose based off that. The other thing that you want to keep in mind for Instagram is that it crops it to a 1:1. I'm going to remove the chromatic aberration from this photo, and that'll be a good starting place. It's not perfect, but it will be fine. It will do. This one, I like it a lot more already. The only thing I don't like is how bright those highlights are, so they are overexposed. But you know, when you're shooting a self-portrait in quarantine, it can't be perfect. The thing that I'm concentrating on here is not getting the perfect lighting, it's learning how to pose by myself. I'm not too keen on is the fact that up here, you can see the grease there. That is all of my scalp from not washing my hair in 19 days. So here in the before photo, that looks so bad. I'm so sorry guys, I'm really gross. Yeah, I don't like how orange my hair has turned. So you can fix that in Lightroom, but I will probably fix that in Photoshop instead. I mainly just fix the lighting on my skin tone. So this is like if I was tanned, you know, if I'd been to Bali before the quarantine, beautifully tanned. This is how I want to look. This is the tan I wish I had, and this is the reality. So, oh, I've made myself really yellow as well. As a yellow person, I don't think I need to do that to myself. I'm pretty yellow anyway. I'm not too happy with the skin tone. Put the temperature more bluish. That looks more natural, but I don't like. Sometimes I'll change the background because it gives you a different perspective as well. So I'm going white at the moment. This one will just help me get the color that I want to get. So I don't want to look too green, and that is way too orange. And I think I'm gonna have to go down to the very, very bottom panel where it gives you the calibration. So the color calibration can be super helpful. And you've got red primary, green primary, and blue primary. So, you know, it's very, very dramatic. You can change every color within this panel. You wanna be quite soft-handed with it. Now I'm just messing with the temperature again. I'm gonna press Command E, and that'll export the image to a TIFF file, and it will export it into Photoshop so I can then begin my overlays on Photoshop. Okay, so this is the image as it looks at the moment. What do I not like about it? I do not like the window pane being yellow. The first thing I'm gonna do is make a copy. Now the reason I'm making a copy is so I've got that background layer as a backup in case I mess up the photo beyond repair and I just want to start again. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that copy again, and I'm going to add a layer mask. Here you can see that I've selected the layer mask, and I'm going to go into brush tool. So I've coloured this whole layer black. There we go. I'm going to change from black to white, and I'm going to put this bit white, this window frame, because what I want to do is I want to desaturate the window frame because I feel like it's just too close to my skin tone. So this is really annoying when you can't see how big the brush is. I don't know why it does that. Oh, it's caps lock. So if it's just showing you this, you press caps lock and it shows you the actual brush size. Okay, so now that is all white, tap on the photo. I'm gonna tap image, adjustments, hue and saturation. Gonna go yellow, eyedropper tool for the yellow on there, saturation right down, lightness, I want it actually, let's zoom so you can see the difference if you preview it and unpreview it. So I'm gonna tap OK, and I can see that I've missed some more bits, so I'm gonna tap on my layer mask and I'm gonna make sure I'm on white, and I'm just gonna fill in this again. And actually I think it's better to do it with my hair as well, because like I said, I didn't like how the photo made my hair look orange when my hair is not orangey brown. My hair is very black, as you can see here. I once again apologize for the amount of dandruff and other stuff that is littering my roots, because I have not washed my hair in like 19 days, like so. So if you press the little eye tool, you can see the before and the after. And now I'm tapping it, I actually really like the window frame, but I've definitely taken too much colour out of my hair. So I don't know if you guys know this, but you can add some colour back in that layer mask. All you need to do is go onto brush stroke and you actually change it to like a grey colour. It starts to bring some of the colour back into the photo. How much colour you bring back depends on how grey. So if you have a really light grey, it'll bring it back only very slightly, and if you have a dark grey, it'll bring it back more. Down here I think I'm gonna make it a bit more dark grey because I want a little bit more colour in this part. I think it looks a bit nicer there, and same for this bit as well. So I'm just tidying it up now. Top tip if you want like a smooth finish is if you put the hardness down and the brush size up, considerably up, it gives a softer finish to anything that you may want. So this one looks a lot softer than if I was to, for example, go harshness 100 like this, because you can see where the brush is. So if I go harshness this much, and fill that in again, you don't even have to go right up to the edge. Okay, so that's just to remove the colour of the windowsill behind me and make the model pop out more. What else don't I like about this photo? The skin tone. I think my skin tone looks crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna add a layer mask and I'm gonna draw around the stuff that I've already changed. I'm gonna go on to adjustments and hue and saturation. I'm gonna tap preview on this time. I'm gonna go into yellows and I'm gonna eye drop my forehead. So when I eye drop, normally by default it's on master, and if I do master it will change everything. so you can see it changes the walls, etc. And I don't want to do that. I'm going to click onto yellow, and then it just lets me select the color that I want to adjust, so it gives me a lot of control over the image. Bring that saturation down a little bit more so we can add a little bit more red, and I can preview that. So you can see this is very yellow and this one looks a bit more natural. So I'm going to go with that one. I'm just going to tap OK, and I've noticed in this corner here by the windowsill I've actually missed some of the part of my layer mask, so I'm going to press on brush. I'm going to make sure the brush is black, and I'm just going to colour that in so it brings the layer mask through from below. Once again, I apologise if I'm not very clear during this editing process. I have never given a tutorial before, and clearly that shows. Okay, so that is the normal photo, that is the windowsill adjustments, and that is the slight skin tone adjustment, which I prefer. It is a little bit too ready actually. Send photo, go into image, adjustments, color balance this time. Preview is already on. I'm gonna make it a little bit more bluish, tiny bit of green actually. I think that looks nice. And then this is the temperature change. I'm gonna make it a tiny bit blue as well. I know that a lot of these changes are gonna be really subtle, and perhaps you might not notice them now, but if you keep editing and you keep practicing, you will be able to tell the difference between very subtly edited photos. And I think that's the key really when you're retouching something. You want to do something that is subtle. So that is the orange skin tone. That is what I started with in Photoshop, and this is the more subdued natural skin tone, which I actually really like now. I'm gonna combine these layers and merge them. And this is where I've ended with the color corrections. Duplicate this skin tone layer. I'm going to go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm just going to blur a little bit. So this is what I do for retouching. My retouching is really natural, so I try not to do too much stuff. And I'm going to go into healing brush tool, and I press Alt and I pick the part where I want to fix it. So I've just picked that there, and here as well. I'm going to go Alt and fix my forehead. Got like a really harsh shadow on it for some reason, and then I just bring the opacity down a lot so you can see that it's just given my face a bit of a softer look to it. Do a layer mask. You're gonna put black around your eyes and your nostrils and your lips. That is my first layer of retouching, so it's a very subtle difference. The second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate that thing again, and this time I am aiming to completely remove spots. So I'm just gonna go into Alt and literally paste over that spot, so it's gone forever. And you wanna make sure you find a really good color match so it doesn't look like you have spotted over the top of it. And the photo's quite grainy anyway, because I add a lot of grain to most of my photos in Lightroom, just because I like the look of grainy photos. Please don't judge me too harshly for the way that I edit. I am still learning how to use Photoshop. If you want to tell me what you're doing is shit at the moment, these are ways that you can improve, I would love to hear that. But not just your shit, because I tell myself that every damn day. So we're gonna go with that. That is okay-ish looking, which is what every girl wants to hear. And I'm gonna go into Lightroom again. Automatically will import the new saved file. So this is the original and this is the edit. So I'm gonna bring the highlights down again. And I'm gonna bring the shadows up a bit. So if you do it this way, it gives it more of a faded look, which I don't like anymore, but I used to love. And this gives it more of a contrasted look. Obviously you do not want to go way wild with it. Unless that's what you like, then go for it. And then I'm gonna go into tones and bring down the whites and the highlights just a smidge, and bring up the shadows like that. Now of course all of this is up to everyone's different personal taste. Some people might really like having like really sort of bright colours and blown out stuff. I personally now at the moment prefer something that's a little bit more muted and sort of subdued, and everyone's got their own sort of style that they like. So yeah, so the main thing is that we all have a bit of fun with it. And at the moment, this is the kind of thing that I like, and this is where we're ending up. So I've managed to bring back more of a natural skin tone, which was the aim from when I exported it. This is why I like comparing before to after. I think it's really useful to be able to see the original image, because sometimes you can get a little bit too far away from what that was. And I'm gonna add a little bit of a adjustment brush here. So I'm just drawing where my irises are. So I'm gonna up the saturation here and more yellow here. And I think I'm gonna add a little bit of a orangey look. So if I was to delete that there, you can kind of tell the difference. And I might also make the eye ball itself slightly whiter, just to try and make my eyes stand out a bit more, but not that much, because then it starts to look too fake. I think that looks more realistic. So if I was to delete it, that's what it looks like, and if I'm to include it, it looks like that. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Sometimes things work and sometimes they don't, and sometimes you waste a lot of time. This is the original, and then when we exported it to Lightroom, that's what it looked like, which is so awful. And then when we exported it from Photoshop back into Lightroom, it looked like that. And then we've just changed the lighting a bit more into this. So like I said, I like really subdued colours and sort of a matte sort of feel to my images. So that's why I've changed the tones of it to fit that kind of vibe. Okay, so that is my final image. Sorry that this tutorial was not extremely professional. Like I said, I only know how to do a very limited amount of things in Photoshop. I'm currently trying to teach myself to be a lot better with retouching, and my retouching is very natural anyway, so sometimes you can't really tell what I've done to an image even though I spend hours retouching. I actually really enjoyed it, to be honest. I don't normally enjoy taking self-portraits at all. I hope that you're having a good day, and I hope that you enjoy some self-portraits or getting creative during this quarantine process. If you have any ideas or advice on what you want to see next, then just comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see some more content, then subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Bye! I also just want to give you a huge shout out for managing to suffer all the way through that video, and yeah, congrats for making it to the very end. Thank you for watching.